Hello and welcome to Telling It Like It Is, UGA Extension and Southeast District's newest source for local, unbiased, research-based information about Georgia's number one industry, agriculture. As always, my name is Blake Carter, and I'm, as of January 1, going to be starting as the Lawrence County Ag Agent, so I got to get used to that. And with me is
Yeah.
my, as always, thank you, David. As always, my co-host Savannah Tanner, Emmanuel County Ag Agent, is also on here.
Hey guys.
And we have a really cool special guest with us all the way from the big county of Bleckley County, Georgia. Mr. David Hall is on here with us today. And if you've never heard about Mr. David and what he offers in our extension side of things in our district, you might know him from two different ways, either helping farmers or you might be seeing him in the schools giving talks on the Enviroscape. And I'll let him give a little bit of a shout out about that in just a second. But he's kind of built a really good reputation in our district, and I'm so thankful he agreed to be a part of the podcast today. To kind of start things off, David, if you don't mind, just kind of talk a little bit about your background, what you do, and then we'll kind of get going on some irrigation questions.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to thank each of you for allowing me to be on the podcast today. I count it a privilege, and I always hate when people do this nice big build up introducing you because then it puts a lot of pressure on you to deliver. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully today we'll hit a home run a little bit. I'm talking about some irrigation, winterization, and but you touched just a tad bit about tugging at my heartstrings, talking about kids with the Enviroscape. Um, I, if I can live long enough, if the Lord will allow me to live long enough to retire, I would love to write a book one day about the darndest things that kids say when their parents aren't around.
You better be
That would
careful with that one.
Well, I would have to keep my sources anonymous, I guess, or not tell who it was. But some of the parents probably would know the story because they would be like, "Oh, that happened to me." But I do enjoy talking about water conservation, water quality. My whole career has been based off of that. I have a very extensive ag background, actually a fourth generation, live on a fourth generation farm, do a little bit of farming and irrigation. So I feel like I can speak about things that are near and dear to me and that I actually have my hands involved in it. So I feel like I can speak with a little bit of authority when it comes to the things that I do speak about. But extension has been great to me. I started out with Soil and Water Conservation Commission. It's been many years ago, it's about 18, 19 years ago. Um, my main priorities back then was looking over, we had a irrigation pond program that was grant funded that we helped work with farmers on getting some grant money to help offset costs building irrigation ponds. That was the whole purpose behind that. And then another tier of my career was the mobile irrigation lab. And that's something that we've carried right on over into extension when I actually made the move over to extension. And I think a big part also, it'd be a mishap on my part not to mention, is the water metering program, which was started with soil and water conservation. Now, of course, it's being looked over and um, ran by Georgia EPD. The water meters are excellent tools to be able to actually tell the public and tell the state exactly how much water we're using in the agricultural field. And it has been a lifesaver if you really want to know the truth of it when it comes to litigation. And I think it just is an excellent point to make that the state of Georgia is proactive when it comes to ag water usage and using it wisely and conserving it and being as efficient as possible with irrigation water. But with that said, yes, water as a whole is my career. I'll just be honest with you.
Well, I do want to say, if y'all are listening, y'all are thinking, well, does he do a good job teaching the adults as he does the kids with the EnviroScape? I just want to say he did a guest teaching thing for us as an agent group a couple months ago, and uh, even as an adult, watching David work with that EnviroScape is peak entertainment. So if y'all ever get an opportunity to get him in front of you and listen to him, he is fantastic with the youth and with the kids, but also being able to relate those things to adults as well. And I think that's a skill set, David, that a lot of people don't have, being able to go from an adult audience to a youth audience, being able to educate both. And I think you do it so well. You can really tell that you've become almost a master of your craft in terms of water and water education because you can kind of go back between the two audiences. But Savannah, do you want to kind of hit him with some of them hard topics? You want to give him a good question to kind of go off of?
So, fun fact, Blake, yes, the Enviroscape is great, but I'm getting the feeling you've not heard him do the what to flush or what not to flush one. Now that one is comical.
Yep. I've seen it. I've seen it in action. I've seen it. It's pretty good.
Um, but we are going to get started. So I'm going to kind of start with telling a story. My daddy this morning actually called me. So for those of you that are listening, we're actually recording on the 16th. And when I walked out of my door this morning, my truck said 18 degrees on it. So it was so cold. And about 30 seconds after I got in the truck, my daddy called me and asked me what I had planned for today. And so, fortunately, I had a couple things going on, but he was actually going to fix a water main break in the city of Wrightsville in 19-degree weather. So he is rather cold. I've not heard from him to see if he's gotten warmed up yet, but him and his boys were going to get the city of Wrightsville some water. That being said, going into this season, and we're always a day late and a dollar short, right? So we're a little bit late on discussing what to do prior to freezes, but let's talk about that, David. What should our farmers be doing to winterize their irrigation systems, their pumps? And if you want to even put in a plug for some other equipment, that would certainly be fine too.
Sure. Yes, by the time this airs, we'll probably have several farmers out here that say, well, shucks, that'd been nice to hear that about a week ago. Better late than never, is the saying. That I think it's an excellent topic. If y'all would allow me to, I'm going to touch on a lot of different things when it comes to winterizing pivots and not just draining systems. I think it goes into a lot deeper activities and procedures that we need to be doing other than just draining the system. I mean, it's real easy to go out and pull a drain plug and let all the water run out of the system. Mainly at your center pivot points is where we're looking at actually draining a center pivot at. But it goes a lot deeper than that. I want to throw in a quick plug that we're going to have here. Hopefully, by production season comes around, whenever we start doing our production meetings, the water team has put together a center pivot audit checklist, and it's what I had in mind is a step-by-step where you can just go along and just do some checking off of basic things that we need to be doing maintenance on our pivots, looking after them. I did a little article here not too long ago for a peanut magazine. I think that it was worth bringing up. It was the 3 R's of irrigation. Should we replace them? Should we retrofit them? Or should we repair them? And I'll talk about that in just a little bit, but talking about winterizing, the first step that I think you need to do is go and drain that sediment bowl trap, okay? Not only is that going to let the water out of any pipe that you have these drain plugs on each section, and of course your drain plugs is going to be at the lowest point. You can go along with a piece of PVC pipe and generally bump those relief points. And I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I'd say 99% of the time they actually do their job and they drain these systems. But you're going to have collection points like the sediment bowl trap. And there's two things you want to be looking for. When you drain that, don't just pull it and just let it all fall to the ground. Actually pour it out and inspect it. Now is the time to be actually looking for brass material, and that's not a good thing. That doesn't mean you struck gold down there somewhere or brass. That generally means you have some pump wear that needs to be addressed during the off season, and so that I would definitely be getting in touch with an irrigation or uh, a well man about coming out and inspecting your pump because that is a definitely a bad sign. Rust is can come from lots of different places. It can come from your drop pipe going down. Your system itself can be have rust contamination in it. And that's just normal. That rust is normal, but we need to get those systems flushed out. We don't want all that rust settling into those areas. But drain your center pivot point, and you say, well, what's the point? Why do that? Because we have like low pressure sensors and that's where your low pressure sensor is going to be is located right in there at your center pivot point. And that is very, very important that we keep that operational because come next year, if you're doing some type of chemigation or fertigation, or if you're just running the system, and lo and behold, a limb tears the end of the system off, and that low pressure system, for whatever reason, we get expansion and constriction with freezing and thawing and all that, and that can cause those components to actually malfunction, and then you could have a major issue when you're out in the summertime irrigating when it needs to shut that pump down. You need those sensors working. But I would like to say during the off season, this is the perfect time to actually start at the base of the pivot. As agents, I know we go out lots of times into the field, and as a farmer myself, what happens in the summertime around these center pivot points? They grow up, right? We get lots of weeds, we get tall grasses, we get all these things. What does that harbor? It harbors rodents. Okay, rodents. It has nothing to do with winterization right now, but it has everything to do with maintenance because they're looking for a nice, cozy, warm place to stay. And guess where they're going to stay? They're going to stay in that control box. If they can get behind that control panel, they're going to build a nest. Okay. Last time I checked, contact points and wires and 480 volts of electricity, it's like a tinderbox in there. And so if we have rodents actually living in those components, now we're looking at a fire hazard, a shortage hazard. I can't tell you how many times we start pivots up in the springtime of the year and we burn up control boxes or we blow fuses left and right. And it's just from simple things. I would love to encourage farmers this time of year, go out, take the time, clean up around those pivot points, and actually put rat bait out. Cattle, Savannah, you know about this. I know you know a lot about cattle. Um, if you're grazing cattle, it's number one. You need to be putting rat bait in boxes. Okay, be careful about that because we don't want cattle going up and munching up all the rat bait, and that can cause a lot of problems. Dogs, I can speak from experience. We need to be careful with rat bait. That is very dangerous. But now is the time to eliminate rodents. That's huge, huge.
I will throw out, and I mean there's some really cool bait traps now that you can get to put the bait in that kind of protects some of your other animals.
That's right.
I went that route, and they're small and compact, so you could still use them in those situations and fit them in there if you need to. But I just want to throw that out there. That way, it keeps the bait, contained, so the other animals don't get a hold of it.
Yeah. Cattle, uh, that's our number one nemesis at center pivot points. Uh, I actually graze cattle also on our home farm, and we make a point to put panels up around these center pivot points. And you say, well, what's the big deal? Okay. It's a huge deal because one of the first things that I look for when I come up on a center pivot point is that controller grounded properly. Okay. And 9 times out of 10, the ground wire, if cattle have been grazed in that particular field, the first thing you're going to notice is they're going to go up there, they're going to step on a ground wire, break the cable, or pull it loose, or stretch it, some forth, and that's your first line of defense when it comes to spring and summer storms, when we have these lightning events. You want to be sure and look for that. The other thing that they're notorious about is this little plastic hose that goes from the center pivot point to your pressure sensor. And they love to chew on that for some reason. So I highly encourage you, cattle and pivots, uh, let's protect those center pivot points and our well heads, the wires and things of that nature. And of course, the old mean old bull, what's he want? He first thing he wants to do is see who's the biggest man, and they're going to rip your paddle box right off the your control box off. So I always, when I'm thinking about pivots, I want to think about the center pivot point. Let's start at the very beginning of the pivot, and then we work our way outward. So
Well,
that's my spiel on the center pivot point. If you would like, we'll go right on down the pivot point.
yeah, no, that would be fantastic, and I think of if you could almost add a little bit. I was thinking about the training we did in Midville a couple months ago, and you gave like we give a talk about whether or not we should add to the pivot, or expand our irrigation. And there was like a scenario, and we talked through it, which one is the best method for either installing a new well or adding to, when farmers are thinking about this time of year, whether or not they're adding irrigation or expanding in their fields that already have some irrigation in it. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things they might think about, or
Sure.
how do they go about making that choice?
The first step is to check with Georgia EPD on your permit. Okay, that's number one. And Georgia EPD, located in Tifton, Georgia. You can look it up. Their number, it's really easy to find. Georgia EPD. I just want to throw a bone out to them and just say how easy they are to work with. They're uh, they're really good folks, and they're willing to help you and guide you and keep you out of trouble. So the first thing you want to do is look is, can I expand my irrigated acres legally? Okay. If not, if your permit, let's say you have a 100-acre pivot and your permit is for 110 acres and you want to add 25 acres to that permit, you have to do an amendment or a change request to that permit. You have to get approval first to add those additional acres. Okay. The next thing you need to look at is, if I get that approval, do I have enough water for those extra acres? Okay. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have enough or a sufficient amount of water extra for that extra 25 acres that I'm referring to. Okay. Because when you install the first initial well and pivot, you're going to just do the minimum requirements to get by. Let's face it, these things are not cheap. Okay. So you've got, at that point, if you decide that, hey, I am going to add additional 25 more acres, I can do it legally. Then at that point, you're going to have to make a decision of really and truly splitting that crop up. So, for example, you may want to have corn maybe on half, at least maybe half of those total acres, and then come in with a later crop or a crop that doesn't require as much water, maybe peanuts. Um, Actually, soybeans do take a lot of bit of water nowadays. Varieties and yields that we're getting towards, people used to refer to soybeans as poverty peas, but they're not poverty peas anymore. They're actually a cash crop now, especially these non-GMOs. I mean, they're really getting big now. So if you need or desire to drill another well, you must get a permit from Georgia EPD and make sure that you're legal there. So if you want to expand, again, check with EPD, then move forward with someone. You can call me. We can do maps. We can estimate acres. We can help you with those things. But stay really close with a reputable irrigation dealer in designing the system, because you'd be surprised at how many people out here think, well, I can go and I can buy this pivot from this neighbor over here. Okay, now we're talking about replacing it with a used pivot, and it's perfect. The length is perfect, and everything's gonna work out great, and I'm gonna save all this money. And they put that pivot up, and make they don't make sure that the design is correct, which I can 99% almost positively tell you that it's not going to match. You're going to need to get a proper CID design for that pivot for the amount of gallons per minute that you're going to pump. So I have a friend, I won't name any names, he did this exact same scenario, and it ended up, he sent me these really cool drone pictures in the middle of corn season where he had streaked his corn up. He did not have enough flow to get the water to stream out, and it ended up costing him twice as much as what it should have if he had just done the right procedures to begin with. So that's a good point.
David, thank you for that. One of the things, we kind of talked about being a little bit late on it. What kind of damage should these guys be looking for if something did freeze? What other damage outside of the connection and things like that should we be looking for, either the first part of the season or before then?
Well, you're talking about a 6-inch pipe, 8-inch pipe. So we're talking about large material pipe here. Very rarely are you ever going to see um, pipe burst, irrigation pipe burst. I mean, just being honest with you, generally, those systems will drain pretty well. The problems that we're going to find, unfortunately, are going to be in many cases right when the farmer is ready to get a crop up. It's 95 degrees. He's going to turn that pivot on for the first time, and then he's going to find out all of the issues that occurred in the wintertime. So this is why I highly recommend that we do fire up these pivots early in the spring as soon as we get out of hopefully the window of maybe that last freeze. And if we all had a crystal ball, we would know when that would be. But you really, you got to get motivated and just get out there and walk these pivots and do an audit on them. And that's what our audit checklist is really going to help you out with. But the biggest issues that I see are the plastics, your plastic hoses that go to end guns. The water has to go through that to signify that there's enough pressure for the booster pump to come on. So that's where we're going to see a lot of issues at. We won't have booster pumps coming on, and the farmer's going to get really irritated, and he's going to say, well, I got to go, so I'm not going to even worry about that 100-foot out there on the end of that system, because he's got to go, 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 go. And he didn't take the time prior to planning and doing a correct audit on that system. And in fact, that last 100 feet is the biggest acreage percentage of your system. I don't care if you have a 2 tower or a 10 tower, that 100-foot radius all the way or circumference all the way around that field, that's a lot of acres. So I would say that I see that lots of times when we go out and do a mobile irrigation audit. The end gun won't cut on, and we do not get that information in with the data when we're actually doing that audit. And to me, that is huge because we can tell the farmer, hey, your end gun is at the wrong angles. And that is, people all the time ask me, what do I need to set my correct angles up on my end gun? The first thing you need to do is go look at your design, okay? Or if you don't have a design for that pivot, go get you a design that I'm sure you'll be able to find one somewhere. They have it off the serial number, and it will tell you the arc angles that you need to set that end gun. But if you're blindsided and you just say, I got to get out there and I got to set it up, I always encourage people to set, they'll say, well, I want it 180 degrees, left to right, windshield wipers. Well, 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. It's actually going to be constricted a little bit. And I like to usually think about a clock, okay? In the end of my system, if I'm looking down at the end of my system, that's going to be 12 o'clock, straight up 12 o'clock. So my left angle is going to go to about a 10 o'clock position, and my right angle is going to go to a 3 o'clock position, okay? And there is some science behind that, but that will get you in the ball game. But if I have my buckets laid out, I'm going to catch that water, and I can tell you, hey, you need to tighten up that arc or you need to expand that arc. So end gun angles are huge when it comes to irrigation. And if it's not set right, you're losing 50, 60% of the water that you're paying for to be applied uniformly down that system. That's just a no-brainer, and we do not need to leave that money on the table, especially as tight as the margins are going to be. We thought last year's margins were tight. This year's margins, we don't even want to talk about that. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's sad.
I was going to say the same thing. I was like, that's about to be a depressing turn for this conversation.
Speaking about end guns, wintertime, okay? If I never will forget, and I took a picture one time. There was an end gun and it had a China berry limb hanging on that end gun. Okay.
Mhm.
So nobody wants to handle a saw in the summertime when it's 95 degrees. Okay. Number one, I don't like snakes and I don't like poison.
Yep.
If you know you've got some low hanging fruit, when I say that, these limbs that are out there in the field, now is a good time to go get you a little bit of firewood. If you run that excavator, let's get these ends cleared out so that we don't have disaster situations where they grab those end guns and they tear the end boom off, and that's definitely not what we want. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I have that on my checklist to do this winter myself.
Well, I really think you've shared a breadth of knowledge and a lot of good tips and for folks to kind of think about through the winter months. If kind of wrapping up this segment of the podcast, David, if you had one piece of advice about anything irrigation, what would you want people to take home from this message?
Get out of the truck and walk that system. Okay. And if you don't want to walk it, ride a mule. If you don't want to ride a mule, ride a pickup truck. Go to every single pivot point. Look at those tires. Look at the rims. This is the time of the year that you're going to see, because we were talking about that expansion and constriction with cold weather. The seals on these gearboxes. Now is the time you're going to see leaks from these seals, and it's going to drip right onto your wheel. If you haven't been using that system, it's going to be easy to spot. It's going to be a greasy spot. Make notes of that, okay? I understand we farmers were busy lots of times, and this time of year we want to spend it with our family and all. Really and truly, you need to be out there draining gearboxes and making sure they're not they don't have water in them. That's the number one thing that's going to kill a gearbox is water in that gearbox. Oil and water, grease, and oil, they don't mix, okay? So if we have these oily spots, that's a good time to drain that gearbox. And they have what's called sprinkler lube. You can refill that gearbox with it, and it will actually seal that leak. And it's really expensive, but it's cheaper than buying a gearbox. Uh, I I use it. It's an excellent product. It will save you years before having to replace that gearbox. Look at your tires. If you've got tires, caps are off, make a note of it. Let's go ahead and get those tires fixed. If they're flat, they're not going to hold air when you pump them up. There's a leak somewhere. It's like an air conditioning system. If you leak Freon, you can pour all the Freon in there you want. It's going to leak. So, the last thing that I would like to say about sprinklers, when you do fire them up, or if you notice back in the wintertime or during the season, if you see regulators that actually are leaking out at gasket points, that's something that's actually, it's just going to get worse, okay? So I really like to, in the springtime of the year before we get fired up planting and row cropping, that's when I want to fire that pivot up and inspect those regulators. People all the time ask me, how long can I go with regulators? How long, when is it time to retrofit? And that's $1 million question, and it has to be assessed by every pivot itself. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, one of my greatest pieces of advice I can give a farmer, when you start getting around 8 years of age on a system, it's time to be going to NRCS, applying for cost share money, okay, to retrofit nozzles and regulators. You may not get approved for it. It may be 3 or 4 years down the line, but that will be assistance that will be great. And people ask me all the time, when do we need to replace these? If you get approved for something like that, it's time to replace. But my point is this: if you have regulators in the springtime from all of that expansion and constriction in those regulators, if you get leaks in those particular areas, that's a sign you need to go ahead and retrofit your pivot, because your springs are not going to control the pressure correctly. You're not going to get the design flow out of that nozzle. It's not going to be the pattern that you're looking for. So that's time to go ahead and get those replaced. And if you're in question, we can do a mobile irrigation audit. We can't go out and do every single pivot out here. It's impossible. We have actually my counterpart in Southwest Georgia, and I've got Jason Mallard. There's like 4 of us. We could spend every waking minute doing pivot audits, but it's not feasible, okay? So you have to use a little bit of common sense. If they're stopped up, you don't need to call UGA Extension and then come out and do an audit. You need to get out there and unstop that, unscrew it, make sure your system is operable. If you have a situation where you think you may have low flow, you're not pumping what you think you should be pumping, that's the kind of time that's the situations you can call us, Extension. We can guide you on that. If you saw streaking in the field last year and you know for a fact that you do not have rust obstructing areas, and I've got to throw this out. First 2 spans of the pivot, when you fire it up in the springtime, turn it off, go and unscrew those, especially if they're drop nozzles. They're really easy. Look for specks of rust and things of that nature, because that will cause major streaking of the fields. But if you do all of those things and you're still really don't feel secure about your pattern, or you may think you may have bad nozzles, we'll be glad to come out and assist you with that. But we just can't hold everybody's hand on the basics. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I really appreciate that. And they are like David, and I know Jason is another one of our folks that you can give a call to. Jason Mallard. Both are fantastic resources, and we are so grateful in our district to have those. And not just for us as agents, but also for the producers to utilize and get help and expertise. And I thank you so much, David, for joining us and sharing your expertise. And Savannah, do you have any final words for David?
Well, I will say it's pretty easy to perform. Maybe not easy, it's time consuming, but we do have a step-by-step guide, not only on the audits, but also the uniformity tests. And we can certainly, I mean, those are kind of interchangeable, but we can certainly work with you as your agents to help you set something up to make sure it's firing like it's supposed to be. Um,
On
but
that note, Savannah, we have an access to a very, very nice flow meter. Okay. And I have been called out to pecan orchards, um, lots of places where there's questionable flow. Do I have enough gallons per minute? Maybe someone buys a farm and they don't even have a clue what their well is pumping. Um, uh, we I'll be more than happy to come out and do flow checks for anyone. If you're going to retrofit a pivot, don't take the gospel that you're pumping 1,200 gallons per minute, because a 10-year-old well, I can almost guarantee you it's not pumping 1,200 gallons per minute again. And so we can go and inspect that. You may be doing 1,000 gallons a minute. And if you're not going to do any modifications to that well, you need to re-nozzle for 1,000 gallons per minute, which is going to slow your pivot down. And I've seen that. I could tell you probably at least 10 plus times where farmers thought they were putting out 3/4 of an inch, but they're actually putting out a half of an inch. You say, well, that's only, 1/4 of an inch. David, you don't know what you're talking about. Let me tell you something. You do that by 12 or 15 times, it's going to make a huge difference. Soil moisture sensors will tell you pretty quickly what's going on and what's not going on.
that's
Well,
right.
and that's I just want to throw this plug out there. That's a good point about the soil moisture sensors. If the David, do you want to give like a little bit of an overview, real plug for the Master Irrigator program that you help with a little bit?
Sure. I want to give kudos to Jason Mallard on this. He really took the bull by the horns. Applied for a grant through Georgia EPD. The program Master Irrigator. Lots of different states in the United States have Master Irrigator program. We didn't really want to copy someone else's, but we really wanted to bring the emphasis on there's better ways of irrigation scheduling than turning a pivot on when your neighbor turns it on or when you see wilting in your crop. And wilting in your crop, it can occur when you have sufficient moisture. Okay, this the and I'm not I don't have all the letters behind my name to talk to you about the physiological needs of a plant, all that good stuff. But we get scared when a plant wilts. But if it's 100+ degrees out there, you may have sufficient enough moisture. That plant can recoup from it during the nighttime. But we really wanted to emphasize the usage of soil moisture sensors. Our job out here in Extension is not to promote one over the other, but we do want to promote ones that we know work and do a good job and that we feel comfortable being able to get parts for, and also have someone who will stand behind a product. Okay. That's very important, because if we get these fly by night companies come in here one day and you spend $2,500 and the next year they go out of business, that's not good. And that's not what Extension wants to do. We want to promote good companies, good products, and the science behind the sensors. And we really try to focus on hands-on with the producer, teaching them how to install them, teaching them how to read them, read the graphs, interpret the data, and so that they can make smarter decisions on knowing when to irrigate and maybe when to hold off an extra day or two. And someone says, well, how do you actually save water? Well, there may be years you may not save water, but you're going to give that crop everything it needs, and you're going to get that on the back end of your crop. But also there can be water savings. Okay. If I can stretch you out, say 2 days, 3 days this week, next week I may save you 1 day. The week after that, and the biggest times that we see savings is on the front end of the crop and at the end of the crop. We all know that in the middle of the crop, it's high input, it's turn it on and don't look back, okay, especially in corn. But that's not the case in a lot of these other crops. So the sensors will actually help us in making that decision to pull that trigger or not. And if I can save a day here and a day there at the end of the season, I might could save you 3-4 inches of water. And the last time I checked, we're looking at $8-9 an acre each. So if I can save you just say, for example, $8-9, $10 an acre, that's money saved. And again, tight margins, $10 when cotton's $1 and corn $6-7 may not sound that big to you, but the margins that we have now, let me tell you, $1 is important.
Every cent counts. That's exactly right.
David, thank you. And you mentioned you don't have the letters behind your name, and that's all fine and good because you put this stuff into practice on your own farm. And that's what I appreciate with your expertise behind it because you practice what you preach, and that goes a long way in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to say this much. Uh, People who pay for their education, whether it be through the School of Hard Knocks or whether you actually pay for your education, you appreciate it and you put it to use. I can promise you that. And
Sure.
I think everyone in Extension has their own expertise, and that's to me what makes Extension great, especially with you all as agents. I want to commend you all. I can't tell you how many times you'll actually be my county agent, Blake. I'm in Wilson County, so I maybe get to call you and see if I can stump you sometime. But one thing I can say about a good county agent, I don't think they'll know everything there is to know, and we have specialists for that. But the good thing about extension agents is if they don't know the answer, they'll get you that answer, and that's a plug for all the agents out here. I relied on them even my teenage years up to now. I still call on Derek next door.
That's right.
But I thank you all for everything that y'all do and your podcast. Commend you both on that.
Thank you.
I think it says a lot about you all as the characters y'all wanting to get information out to everybody, and I think that's the epitome of the extension.
Well,
Well,
David,
thank
we
you.
certainly thank you for joining us. We'll, I'm sure, be calling you at some point to get you back on. He is, like I said, a wealth of knowledge and a farmer himself. So we're blessed to have him in Extension. But we won't see you, but Merry Christmas.
Yep. And Happy New Year.
Well, I'd appreciate the prayers. I'm going to have surgery on December 29th. I've battled acid reflux a long time, and I think it's time to do something about it. So I'll be bringing in the New Year's with liquid only, and it will not be the liquid of choice.
Well, hopefully they'll get you where you can crack a cold one every now and then.
I will talk about that, but
Cold Coca-Cola, right there, Savannah. Cold
Yeah,
Coca-Cola.
absolutely. It's
Right.
it's Christmas. They have the Santa Coca-Colas these days.
That's right.
Um,
Get you one of them
have me
fridge
back on.
cigarettes, one of them Diet Cokes.
Have me back on sometime. We'll talk about home well water. How about that?
that'll be that'll be
We'll
perfect.
Yep.
I talk a lot about agriculture, but I deal a lot with home water quality, uh, how we treat that water. So I'm not just focused on irrigation and agricultural. I do deal a tremendous amount with homeowners, so that's another little tidbit there to share with you all. As you can tell, I don't have a problem talking. I love to talk.
No, you're fine. You might got me a good idea. Have you, Rocky, and MC on here all at one time? I think that'd be a hoot and a half when it
That'd
comes
be a
to
4 hour. That'd probably be an 8 hour show if you got me and Rocky on it.
That's right. That's I had to throw MC in there. She can tamper down a little bit. She can be the
We're
facilitator.
we're all certified yappers. If anything, in extension, we all like to talk. But again, David, thank you. Um, again, Merry Christmas, and we're gonna go ahead and transfer into our next segment.
Thank you, Savannah. This next segment is a Christmas special. A kind of a little present from Savannah and myself to the ones that have come on the podcast, the other fellow agents and fellow extension specialists and staff and faculty. And this is just something for us to them and to all those that listen in every other week. And I hope you enjoy it. "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," a Tillin' It Like It Is Georgia Extension Christmas tale. So after we get done with this segment, we will roll right into the upcoming events with Savannah. So I hope you enjoy it, and make sure to pay attention towards the end, because Savannah is going to give some really good information about the upcoming events. "'Twas the night before Christmas, a Tillin' It Like It Is Christmas tale. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and I finally sat still. Mic off, boots kicked back, extension quiet. Man, what a thrill. The emails were answered, the calendar was clear. No real quick question had popped up all year. I leaned back and laughed at the season gone by, all the days that flew fast, and the ones scraping by. Then memories rolled in, warm as fresh coffee brew. And I smiled, 'cause Extension had done what it is known to always do. A&R, I thought of red clay and soul probes just right, of production meetings stretching, sometimes late into the night. Farmers talking yields, rain totals, and plans, and trusting us enough to shake dirt-covered hands. From hay tests to trials to questions at dawn, A&R shows up steady long after alarms. It's research and patience and boots on the ground, helping Georgia's #1 industry grow year after year round. But then facts came to mind with a calm and steady tone, helping folks feel seen. You're not walking alone. From taxes to budgets to breathing in deep, teaching healthy habits we actually keep. Yoga mats rolled out, stress eased just a bit. Real life skills taught where real life gets hit. Facts reminds us wellness is more than just a chart. It's caring for people and leading with heart. Then came the laughter, camp songs in my head, during Clover's big dreams and confidence spread. Head, heart, hands, and health lighting the way, and kids learning by doing every single day. From record books finished to campfires aglow, from shy to standout, you get to watch them grow. 4-H builds leaders and somehow makes it fun, teaching life skills while the kids think they've just won. Man, I smiled as I reached for the mic once again, thinking how lucky I am to do this. Can I get an amen? Extension's not perfect, but man, is it good. Showing up where it matters, just like we should. So from fields to kitchens to classrooms and barns, from agents to families with hope in their arms, thanks for listening in, for trusting what we do. We'll keep showing up, research-based and true. And as I sign off with a grin and good cheer, I'll say it plain like we do around here. Merry Christmas to y'all, and go dogs, and good night. Savannah, back to you.
So for our upcoming events, certainly, again, we've said it, we want to wish you guys a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I, for one, am excited about 2026. Hopefully, some things will change for us, but got a lot of really good events. January the 15th is the Peanut Farm Show down in Tifton. January the 20th is the corn short course down in Tifton. And then the 23rd, ag forecast in Tifton. And then the 28th is the Cotton Commission annual meeting in Tifton. And so a lot of good events around that Tifton area. Highly recommend going to a couple of them. Always a lot of fun, a lot of good networking opportunities, and then also a lot of good education out there. Some other things that are coming up is going to be your local production meetings. You should be hearing from your county agent about what's going on production meeting wise. So disease meetings, cotton meetings, weeds, beans, corn, um, peanuts, all of that should be coming up, and your local agent will have those listed for you. If you don't have one in your county, they can get you into a county that does have that particular meeting for you. Precision ag meetings, some counties have those. Pecan meetings, some county has those. So get with your agent to find out what those events are for you. Most of those are going to have pesticide credits for you. So if you don't, and you do have you don't farm pecans or peanuts and you need some credit hours, still get with your agent. This is the time to get those credits filled. But that being said, we certainly want to thank y'all for joining us, and have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and let's just keep feeling it like it is. Thank y'all.